Friends, we find ourselves yet again grappling with the seemingly intractable conflict in the Middle East. President Trump, never one to shy away from a bold move, has unveiled a plan for Gaza that can only be described as ambitious, controversial, and potentially earth-shattering. This is a plan that, if implemented, would fundamentally reshape the geopolitical landscape of the region. It's a plan that has been met with a mixture of skepticism, outrage, and cautious optimism, depending on who you ask. Now you might be thinking, John, this sounds serious. Is it another one of those infrastructure weak situations? And to that I say, folks, this is different. This time, it's about relocating an entire population from Gaza, a territory roughly twice the size of Washington, D.C., and turning it into, well, nobody's quite sure yet. Trump has hinted at luxury condos and maybe a casino or two, which, knowing him, isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility. But here's the kicker. This plan hinges on convincing other countries, namely Jordan and Egypt, to absorb the Palestinian population. And let me tell you, convincing a pharaoh to let your friends crash at his pyramid is probably easier than getting this done. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive deep into the swirling vortex of geopolitics, power plays, and the ever-elusive quest for peace in the Middle East. Let's be clear, the cornerstone of Trump's proposal is the mass relocation of Palestinians from Gaza. We're talking about over 2 million people, many of whom have called this tiny strip of land home for generations. Now, the Trump administration argues that this is a humanitarian gesture, a chance for Palestinians to escape the cycle of poverty and violence that has plagued Gaza for decades. They paint a picture of a brighter future, with better opportunities and a chance at a fresh start. But let's not kid ourselves, folks. This isn't just about altruism. This is about reshaping the geopolitical chessboard in a way that Trump believes benefits the United States, and let's be honest, probably his own legacy. By relocating the Palestinians, Trump aims to neutralize Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza, and pave the way for a lasting peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. At least that's the theory. The reality, however, is far more complex. Relocating millions of people is a logistical nightmare. It raises a whole host of legal and ethical questions. And let's not forget the human cost, the trauma and upheaval of being uprooted from your homeland. So, how has the Arab world reacted to this, shall we say, bold proposal? Well, King Abdullah II of Jordan, a key U.S. ally and a man who knows a thing or two about navigating the treacherous waters of Middle Eastern politics, has expressed what can only be described as deep concern. And that's diplomatic speak for, are you out of your mind? King Abdullah, you see, has his own Palestinian population to worry about, a population that's already feeling the strain of previous refugee influxes. The last thing he needs is another 2 million people showing up on his doorstep, especially when those people have a long and complicated history with their potential hosts. And he's not alone. The Arab League, that bastion of unity and consensus, has also voiced its opposition to the plan. They see it for what it is, an attempt to erase the Palestinian claim to land and a violation of international law. Now you might be thinking, John, surely President Trump, the self-proclaimed master negotiator, has a plan to overcome these, shall we say, minor obstacles. And to that I say, you bet your sweet bippy he does. Trump's strategy seems to be a familiar one, a combination of charm, bluster, and good old-fashioned leverage. He's reportedly dangling billions of dollars in aid in front of Jordan and Egypt, essentially saying, look, I know this is a lot to ask, but hey, think of all the shiny new infrastructure you could build with this money. Think of all the jobs it would create. Think of the beautiful, tremendous peace we could achieve together. Of course, there's a flip side to this carrot and stick approach. Trump has also hinted at the possibility of withholding aid if these countries don't play ball. It's classic Trumpian brinkmanship, a high-stakes gamble that could either force his counterparts to the negotiating table or blow up in everyone's faces. Section 5. International backlash. Egypt and Jordan push back. Spoiler alert, it's not going so well. Egypt, already grappling with its own internal challenges, has been particularly vocal in its opposition to the plan. They've called for an emergency meeting of the Arab League, presumably to discuss how best to tell Trump in a diplomatic way, thanks but no thanks. Jordan, meanwhile, is caught between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, they rely heavily on US aid and can't afford to alienate their most important ally. On the other hand, accepting millions of Palestinian refugees would be a huge gamble, one that could destabilize the country and potentially threaten the Hashemite monarchy itself. The international community, meanwhile, is watching with a mixture of amusement and horror. The Europeans, never ones to miss an opportunity to lecture the US on human rights, have condemned the plan as illegal and unrealistic. One of the most contentious aspects of Trump's plan is its impact on the Palestinian right of return. This is a core issue for Palestinians, the belief that they, or their descendants, have the right to return to the homes and lands they were displaced from in 1948. It's a right enshrined in international law, albeit one that has been repeatedly ignored over the decades. Trump's plan, however, would effectively extinguish this right. Under his proposal, Palestinians who choose to relocate would be renouncing their claim to return to what is now Israel. It's a bitter pill to swallow, one that many Palestinians see as a betrayal of their history and their identity. Now, Trump argues that he's offering a better deal, a chance to build a new life in a more stable and prosperous environment. But for many Palestinians, the right of return is non-negotiable, a matter of principle that goes beyond material concerns. So, what exactly is Trump offering these potentially displaced Palestinians? Well, he's promised beautiful new housing, better schools, and economic opportunities galore. He envisions a brighter future, one where Palestinians can finally escape the cycle of poverty and violence that has plagued them for decades. It's a vision that's long on aspiration but short on concrete details. Of course, the devil is in the details. Where exactly will these new homes be built? Who will pay for them? And what will happen to the Palestinians who refuse to leave their homes? These are all questions that remain unanswered. Critics argue that Trump's promises are nothing more than empty rhetoric, a way to sugarcoat a plan that is ultimately about forcing Palestinians into accepting a raw deal. They point to the Trump administration's track record on issues like immigration and refugee resettlement, a record that doesn't exactly inspire confidence. The stakes here are incredibly high, folks. Trump's Gaza plan has the potential to either bring about a lasting peace in the Middle East or ignite a firestorm of instability and violence. If it succeeds, Trump will have achieved what has eluded so many before him, a resolution to one of the world's most intractable conflicts. He'll be hailed as a peacemaker, a visionary leader who dared to think outside the box. But if it fails, the consequences could be catastrophic. It could lead to a new wave of violence in the region, further inflame tensions between Israel and its neighbors, and undermine U.S. credibility on the world stage. It could also embolden extremist groups like Hamas and ISIS, who would undoubtedly seize on the chaos to advance their own agendas. So what does the future hold? Will Trump's Gaza plan succeed where others have failed? Will it usher in a new era of peace and prosperity in the Middle East? Or will it backfire spectacularly, plunging the region into further chaos and bloodshed? Frankly, folks, nobody knows. The situation is incredibly fluid, with a lot of moving parts and no clear answers. One thing is for sure, the road ahead will be long, difficult, and fraught with peril. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride.